Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today's property review, we are here in Halifax on Moorbottom Road viewing this very quirky, massive 2-bedroom mid-terrace property, and we're going to work out whether I'm going to buy it to live in, rent it, flip it, or indeed avoid it. Let's jump straight in. So we're coming into this massive 95 square meter 2-bed property in Halifax, and there's two things you notice as you walk in. Number one, the quality of the place is a lot higher than we're used to in these buy-to-lets, and then the nice feature fireplace, which is quite unique actually and really makes it stand out. Personally, I really like features like that. A lot of people say keep it as boring as possible and as vanilla as possible, including myself sometimes, but I think a feature wall like that makes it a lot more attractive to a potential tenant. The next thing I really like is the positioning of the staircase, and this originally was a brewery built around the 1900s, and it's been purchased in the last few years, renovated and converted, and the positioning of this allows for a really nice open room and good, what's the word, feng shui, if you like, a good layout, and it just feels quite an inviting space that you could move into. So immediately it feels quite homely, mixed in with the beams and things like that, which I'll talk about later as well. Now, it's a very unique property all the way through, let alone the size, the positioning and the aspect and the quality of the place, including the kitchen behind here, which you're going to see later, and is definitely my favorite room in the whole place. But what is unique, or maybe not to the area, is another property, just like Pontefract, you've guessed it, the bathroom is downstairs. It's weird. It's not that I'm in the bath, that's very normal. However, I do find it strange when the bathroom's downstairs, but it is a commonality in some areas. And I'll be honest with you, this is a lot nicer than the one, if you remember, in Pontefract, and a very different level of quality. And you're very fortunate in that you can only see this bathroom, small bathroom, see the bathroom, I can smell it. Anyway, in here, it is downstairs, which is weird, but this is the, I'm gonna say the nicest bathroom I've been in up north. I would say, if you're a northerner, it's not that they're all bad, but moving on. It's a really nice bathroom, and actually, if you have a look around, it feels like I'm in a really nice hotel room. You know when you go to a decent hotel room and you go in the bathroom and it's just really good quality. So I really like the finish here, the high ceilings, the loud lights coming down, and then the amount of natural light coming in at the top just gives it a really nice impact. And for me, when you're showing somebody around to purchase a property, or indeed if you're thinking as a landlord to rent out a property, it's things like this that really make the property memorable, and it achieves a premium on the rental, increasing your returns. So even as I'm coming up here, it's really nice, homely, welcoming with the warm light coming in. But let's jump into the first bedroom, and it's a really nice size. The layout's decent, so it's a good double-sized room. It's got these little pockets, which is always a bit unique. But again, you have to bear in mind, and this is the thing when you do conversions. So if you, barn conversions are a bit easier because it's usually fully ripped out and it's easy enough to do. When you're doing things like a commercial conversion, like an office, which is B1A use class, or a brewery in this case, you're having to do a lot of stuff based around what's already there. So when you've got things like this, which don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely stunning, right? But that is a lot of space taken up for that. And there's nothing in there. So what are you going to do with it? And then you've got these little pockets. I mean, they happen to be big enough, if I'm honest, for storage. So for me, if I were buying this, I'd either do some sort of built-in cupboard. Maybe I'd do something here where you could design a built-in cupboard. It probably costs like £500 to get both done, looking really nice. And I think again would add more value. The last thing is the windows in this place. They're absolutely brilliant. They're really big. They let in a lot of natural light. And outside is quite a busy road, but personally, I think they've put in the right doors, the right windows that really insulates it and gets it in. And it's something people miss when they're viewing a property, is the windows. You know, is it single glaze? Is it double glaze? Is it treble glaze? Is there any moisture in between the glazing? And it's those sort of things that can end up costing a lot of money. And to see such a high quality in the windows, if you're paying attention to that detail, imagine the bathroom, the kitchen, and the quality of everything else throughout the property. But let's jump in to the second bedroom. So in this second bedroom, for a box room, what I do like about it is there's no obstructions. If you remember some of the other properties that we've been to, you've had a decent sized box room, but then it's been above the stairs. And actually that would be fairly typical if they hadn't moved the stairs when they were doing this conversion. So the reason what I'm talking about is, imagine this with a room here, but then you've got the exact same, but then you've got this little box like that. And the reason is because of the stair direction. So if you imagine the stairs are coming this way, it would be coming up into the room. You think, oh, it's fine, you can make something of it. That's not the issue. You can make it look good. It's more the space availability. So for me, it's something I do think about, because if I've got a tenant or I'm selling it on, my mindset is I'm always thinking, what would go in this room? What would be positioned in there? Quick tip, by the way, if you do have a box type thing that's blocking that, always put a light refurbishment in that room, a light furnishing in that room, because you want to give the idea of what it could look like, what they could do with the room. So even if it's an adaptable bed that incorporates that slope, that's really going to help the value of the property. So a majority of the time when you're doing a refurbishment, where do you think you put the radiators? It might seem like an illogical place, but under the window. Now the reason why is, if you've got decent double glazed windows, it's not going to be letting out too much heat, but it's because that's dead space. The only other thing, by the way, is, and this isn't something to be worried about at all, but not the smoothest experience, is it? Sorry about that. So the upstairs toilet, the thing you may notice is there's no shower. Now, if you're like me and you're an efficiency freak, you can have a pommy wash whilst you're doing your morning business. Now, it is a bit tight in here, but actually, considering the space, I think they've done pretty well overall. I really like the little finishes. I think little things like this, by the way, when you're doing it, if you look at this sink, it's nothing like, wow, this is incredible, but they've put something in, like a cupboard around there, thinking about the end user and the space that they might like. The quality, it's not like, whoa, but it's above the normal grade. Little things like putting in a mirror. Another quick tip, whenever you're doing a rental or sale, always put a mirror in. It doesn't need to be a flash one. This is a fairly basic one. But again, for me, whenever I walk in, there's something not quite right about it when they've got the gap above it and then nothing there. It's a nice little cozy room, and I think considering the space upstairs in particular, I think they've done very well on this.
Sign up for this.
I don't get paid enough.
How much do you weigh?
Shh, don't worry.
I thought you lost weight when you went abroad.
Shh.
Can I put you down?
Yeah.
Sorry. You didn't even do it.
Shh. Shh. So I got a bit excited there to see what's up there. Whenever I see a loft shaped like that, it's usually a ladder that comes down, and usually it's because there's something up there that's exciting. However, I tried my best, Alex assisting me to get up there, and it didn't work. Let's go downstairs. So now we're going to go into the favourite room of the house. The kitchen. So I think this is really quite unique. It's quirky. It's another one of those things where some people look at it and go, oh, I don't like this. But personally, I love it. So you come up out of the rest of the house, and it's almost this separate thing. And you know how estate agents say, always get photos of the kitchen if it's nice, because that's what sells the property. It's where most people actually spend a lot of their time. And so the fact that it's like this separate thing that you come into, I think it's really nice. So you come in, good heater, and I mean good heater, is kicking out some heat. And then Look at the amount of space. So I really like the features in here. You've got the oven in here. You've got little bits like this that I'm obsessed with. I just think it's got so much character, this building. And for this price range of property and area, they're not really built like this. You know, they're very bread and butter, very simple, which is great because a lot of people like simple. But I just think this stands out and gives something quite unique character. Fairly unique bits in here are the plugs. Now, I think some people would see those and go, it's not really for me, but I actually really like them. I think it stands out. And for me personally, for this kitchen, I would have put higher quality plugs here because I think that's the sort of thing that stands out. And I'm not saying chrome or anything because I don't think that would work, but just something a bit better than the typical plastic plugs. But I love the fact they're there. I love the fact they stand out. The only thing I'm not a massive fan of is what they've decided to do up there because I just think it looks a little bit tacky. So for me, if I were buying it, I'd look at how much would it cost to get rid of that and then get something a bit better. Another reason, even if you like that sort of thing, is it's translucent. So it's not quite transparent where it's just you're seeing like a glass window here straight through, but it's not opaque either. It's not like this where you can't see through it. So over time, naturally roofs get dirty, moss, all of that sort of thing, and you can just see it. And I think it will over time degrade the visual aspect of this room, but overall I love it. So another great thing is it's got a car parking space outside, which is great. You don't actually need it in this area, there's a lot, but it's nice if you want to keep your vehicle safe, a little bit private and tucked away. And if immediate access to your back garden is there, developers done a great job of allowing that. You can walk straight through. Loads of space outside, real benefit. So I'm not a fan of tarmac gardens like this. Personally, I would do something with it dependent on the value. This is typically low, mid-range areas, so the cost probably wouldn't be beneficial. But what I do like about here is the simplicity and the ease of upkeep. So if you're living here and you've got a busy lifestyle, that's gonna be great. But also, for a buy-to-let, you know you're not going to be coming back at the end of tenancy or something like that with this massive overgrown garden or anything like that. Really easy, really simple to keep clean. And again, it's in a very busy area in general, but it is tucked away, so you've got that nice quiet nature overall, and it's fairly private. So let's talk money. So the property itself, I think, is worth between 150 and 160. The most reliable figure, 155,000. Now we've got it available at 143,000 if we're able to go through. And for the area, getting any form of discount right now is a really good measure. So if we think about the 25% deposit that you're going to need, which is very typical for a buy-to-let, in terms of the refurb, there's none to be done, but I always factor in around £1,000, even if I think it's mint, just for a deep clean. There's little bits like the paint job out there could do with a bit of a touch up. Then of course you've got your stamp duty, which at this rate is going to be around the 3% mark. So we're talking 3,000, 4,200 in there as well. Then you've got your fees as well at 1,500, and so we're all in at 43,500 cash. But what about the rentals? Now in this area, a standard 2-bed would end up achieving around the 675 route to 700. However, with this property, it's 95 square meters. And to give you an idea, next door is 67 square meters and is a 2-bed. So it gives you an idea of just how big for a 2-bed that this property is. Likely it's going to end up achieving around the £750 if you end up taking off the management at 10% plus VAT there, always adding your VAT over the year, deduct your maintenance, void periods, etc. We're ending up at about 325-ish every single month. So again, over the year, we're talking just shy of £4,000, getting a 8.19% return on capital employed. Now that is a staggering return, and remember that's net just before tax. And the reason I don't include tax is everyone's got their own tax strategies and outcomes. And remembering that's just from the cash flow. So we're getting around 3,600 a year, give or take, 8.19% return. And remembering that we're actually getting it at 143, and we think it's worth the 155. So by buying it, we've automatically increased our net wealth through the equity of the property at £12,000. On top of that, this area has been staggeringly good for capital growth. And this is one of the powers of buying long-term property, is capital growth on the leveraged asset. So for example, if we get 5% capital growth on the 155,000, I actually think it's going to achieve more in this area, but we're talking another 7.5 or 7,750 per year, and it increases in capital growth. So that's just by holding the property. So again, if you think you've got 43,500 in this property and you're increasing by £7,750 per annum, we're looking at another roughly 15% return on that capital. Now there's no guarantee of capital growth, but I think 5% is a fair assumption in there. And so we've got the 15% capital growth, the rental at the 8.19% as well. So we're talking a 23.19% return on capital, all things included and going well. Now for me, that's not a bad return on investment, but it's not all as it seems. Here are 3 bad things that I don't like about the property. The first thing, whilst I love that it's a brewery, there are downsides to it being a conversion, and I don't even know maybe if you're seeing it from my angle. There's just this slight uneven nature throughout the house, and for a lot of people it won't bother them, but for a lot of people it would wind them up as you're coming in, you dip down, and then you're having to go up the stairs. It can be frustrating and put people off. The second thing I'm not a fan of this property is how busy the road is outside. It's actually incredibly quiet right now. I promise this is a busy road. And yeah, all the way through filming, luckily it's double glazed inside and stuff like that, but the back of it's a bit noisy, the front of it's a bit noisy, and because it's such a busy road, this sort of property would be for a family because it's so big, but I'd be a little bit nervous of having my kids coming out the front and stuff like that, so it could put off a couple of people for that reason. And lastly, I don't care what you northerners say, this bathroom should be upstairs. And whilst I'm on that, guys will understand this. That is never going to end well. It's not all bad news though. Here are 3 good things that I like about this property. So the one thing I love about this property is the amount of space available. For a 2-bed property, down here, for a 2-bed property, it's 95 square meters, and next door is 67 square meters, and so that is huge, and that's going to really increase the interest, the demand in the property, both on a rental and the purchase side. Quick tip on that, a 2-bed isn't the same price as another 2-bed, isn't the same price as another 2-bed. When you're doing your comparables, make sure to get the EPC, the Energy Performance Certificate, which will show the square footage of the property. The second thing I like is the quality of finish in this property. It's just not what you expect, not so much the area, but the price range of what we're dealing with. And again, I go back to this bathroom where I just said to the team that I think it's Instagram worthy, where you're coming in and it's like what I imagine in a high quality hotel. And for me, it's just a really nice positive shock factor when you come into this level of property and you're like, wow, I can really visualize using this space, and it's not feeling like a house. It already feels like a home. The third thing I really like about this property is the character. I think it's a great part of being a conversion, and the fact that it's come from an old brewery, there's a lot of unique bits. So little things like the banisters, the layout of everything. I just think it adds a little bit of a spin when you've got like a refurbished, modernized property, and little things like that. Some people are put off, but it's not exactly like a leopard print wall or something like that, is it? It's a little bit more neutral than what we just spoke about there. So what am I gonna do? Am I gonna flip it? Am I gonna rent it out? Am I going to live in it? Or am I going to avoid it? Well, I'm not going to avoid it. I think it's a great property in a good area and it's a very acceptable price. I'm not gonna live in it, although genuinely, I would live in this house quite comfortably. I don't think it'd be a forever home for me, but I think it feels really comfortable. And for me, if I did own this property and I had to live in it for a couple of years, I would be perfectly happy with that. As a flip, it's just not there. So when you're doing a flip, there's two ways of making money, either through adding value through refurbishment and things like that, or getting it at an acceptable price. If you remember the Wickham Road property, how gorgeous it was. There was nothing to do, but I got around 100,000 off of it and ended up making, I think it was 75,000 pound profit on there, but it was in the purchase price. And whilst it's worth 155 plus, getting it at 143, it's just the margin's not there once you take account of fees, stamp duty and stuff like that. So it leaves it as a long-term hold. Now, as a bread and butter, boring, vanilla buy-to-let, which if you're new to the channel, I love, by the way, it's all about that, and it's a turnkey investment. And when we say turnkey investment, it's ready to go. You know, you come in, a little bit of a top, maybe a few £100, some paint job, a bit of a clean going out, and then it is ready to let, getting the potential investor 8.19% return on capital employed, plus the long-term capital growth. Now, have I bought this one? I was so close, but the answer is no. We've actually bought this property for an investor and we're getting a tenant moved in at that 750 as the ideal amount coming in. So if you got value from this video and you like property reviews in general, make sure to hit the like button and of course subscribe. And if you're interested in that service I just mentioned, put APG in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.